Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and you're listening to Herb Rally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey, no matter what stage you're at. We have over 673 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is yet another edition of the Herbalist Hour, our interview series with your host, me. In this episode, I interview Thomas Dick. And Thomas is a really good friend. I've known him for, probably 14 years. I think we say it in the episode. But I've known him for a long time, and he's actually currently the vice president of Mountain Rose Herbs, an organic herb, spice, and tea company. He's also their their chief brand officer. So he's also in charge of, the look and the marketing of the company. And last but not least, he's also the host of interviews on Herbal Radio. So Herbal Radio is Mountain Rose Herbs podcast, which I actually used to manage when I worked there. And they come out with new episodes every week. And I want to say Thomas's interviews come out about maybe once or twice a month. They also have interviews with our mutual friend, Jiling. That's the Tea Talks with Jiling on the Herbal Radio podcast. In this conversation, we talk about his early childhood experiences with ginseng, singing on stage in India to a crowd of 32,000 people, branding your herbal products, and a whole lot more. So I was actually able to obtain the footage, at least part of the footage of Thomas singing on stage in India to a crowd of 32,000 people. Shout out to Jennifer Garrity for hooking that up. That was really sweet. So if you'd like to see the actual footage, you could watch the YouTube video to this interview. I will be sure to leave a link to that in the show notes. Otherwise, you'll just get the audio experience, which is just as good as well. So pretty fun stuff, pretty crazy story. I had a great time chatting with Thomas. We also have guest questions from Dr. Susan Leopold, who is, of course, the executive director for the United Plant Savers. Jiling asks a question, and then we have a fun question from our mutual friend, Ryan Szakalski, and I've known Ryan since the 6th grade. So although Thomas isn't technically an herbalist, he is on the Herbalist Hour. He shares a lot of great insight around branding, marketing, and being a leader. And there's also a lot of laughs and fun stories. I also want to mention, if you stay tuned until the end, Mountain Rose Herbs has a new initiative. It's called the Seeds Project. It's really neat, revolutionary, and I'm pretty sure it was Thomas's idea. So that's really sweet. So definitely check out the Seeds initiative at the end of the Seeds Project. He talks about that near the end of the show. Also, before we get into the show, I want to say a huge thank you to all of our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members. Your support means everything to us. We really couldn't do this without you. So thanks so much to our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you could go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And basically, it's our private member area. It's only $10 a month, and your support is greatly appreciated. You could also get your first 30 days for free with coupon code PODCAST at checkout. And actually, Amanda just did a fun redesign of the whole member area. Hopefully, it's a lot slicker, better looking, and easier to navigate. So shout out to Amanda for doing that. That's going to do it with my rambling today. I really hope you enjoy this episode with Thomas. And again, if you want to check out the video, click the link in the podcast show notes. All right. I'll talk to you really soon. Take care.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm joined by my really great friend, Thomas Dick. Thomas is the executive vice president, along with the host of Herbal Radio, along with the brand, the executive brand director at Mountain Rose Herbs, which some of you may or may not know. I worked there for about 11 years. And in fact, during my tenure, I want to say Thomas was my boss for about a year though. So, but first and foremost, he's my good friend and my basketball teammate. So welcome to the show, Thomas.
Thank you. Good to be on. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So this might be completely pointless. And so all your listeners right now, I'm just letting you know that. Well,
pre-call, you were saying that you're not really an herbalist, but you had a nice analogy for that. And I was just kind of curious if you want to share it with us.
That herbalists, right. So I feel like herbalism, and because of my podcast and because I've in the last, my entire tenure here, I've really got to know some wonderful, amazing herbalists, right? Who they're so talented and in what they do, and they're so intelligent, and so just driven, and so I feel like that's kind of a high word to use for someone, right? An herbalist, that's a big word. It's like a doctor, and I made the analogy that's like an artist. You have Rembrandt, that's an artist, and then you have this person over here who's drawing doodles, and they're like, I'm an artist as well, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. You're working toward artist, maybe, which I think is fine. But yeah, so definitely I am nowhere near the Rembrandt in herbalism. I'm really at the doodle stage.
You're doodling.
So I'm doodling. I'm always doodling. Yeah. So
well, you do have the honor of being the host of Herbal Radio presented by Mountain Rose Herbs, and I've listened to a few of the episodes, and you're quite good at the art of interviewing. So maybe you could throw me some tips my way. But
I find that people love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
It's really quite easy. I don't, everyone, I was asked recently about the podcast, and they said, they're asking, how do I prepare? What kind of questions do I try to ask people? And I said, I don't prepare. And I don't say that as in some like flippant sort of way, like, I don't prepare. Who cares? No. I feel like there's something about just coming into a conversation. You don't prepare when you're going to go out with your friends to a coffee shop, right?
Touché.
You come in, you're just like, I'm going to talk about my day. I'm going to talk about what's happening. And then it organically, the stream of your conversation just flows in so many directions. And that's kind of how I play it.
So to reiterate, Thomas is not an herbalist. That said, he has so much value.
Nor a podcaster, really.
Well, you still have so much value to offer to this community of ours. I would like to delve into, like, say, branding and marketing and herbal products company, because of course you are the creative director over at Mountain Rose Herbs, again, along with the vice president and whatnot. But before we get into all that, I want to get to know Thomas a little bit better. I've known you for 13 years, but I would like to hear a little bit more about your younger years. And I brought a prop with me here.
Oh,
so Thomas one year for White Elephant for Mountain Rose Herbs Christmas party or solstice party. Everyone, has like a $20 limit or something. And Thomas ended up making me this gorgeous ginseng hoe. So for just the audio listeners, you can't see this, check it out on the YouTube channel. But Thomas crafted this, and if memory serves correctly, Thomas crafted it based upon his grandpa's design, or the ginseng hoe that his grandpa used. Yeah. So I was wondering if you could kind of take us back to Thomas's childhood and kind of speak to your experience in the natural world dealing with ginseng, your grandfather, and this hoe.
Okay, well, 1 second. Let me grab the actual replica that I did.
Oh, yeah.
My grandfather's of his ginseng hoe. Be right back. 1 second.
Please do. Yeah.
Okay, back. So this is the, I don't know if you can see that very well or not. Lighting.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's an
it's gorgeous
replica of my grandfather, or it would have been my great grandfather's ginseng hoe. And my uncle had he had the actual one, so I was able to take photos and kind of make it based off that. Ginseng's my favorite plant. It made me a lot of money when I was a kid. It was important.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot. And so that was one way of making money. And I didn't know anything about it other than that was a plant that people talked about that you could go in the wild and find, dig it up, and go sell it. I was like, wow, that seems pretty easy. And it was, it wasn't abundant, but there was enough of it around where I was growing up. And so the hills of the Appalachia, it's just filled. There's just ginseng everywhere. That being said, please don't go out and dig it. It's an at-risk plant, and it deserves to live in the wild. So I feel bad about how much I dug as a child, although I had no idea.
Yeah. Right.
So, but yeah, I was, and I've told this story a couple times on my podcast. I knew my uncle. His name was Thomas as well. My Uncle Tom. I knew he dug it, and I went to him one day. I was probably 8, 9 years old, something like that. Maybe even a little younger. I don't remember. But I asked him, I said, hey, will you show me this plant? Because I want to start digging this. I want to make some money. Yeah. And he said, no, he's like, no, I'm not going to show you. He's like, but I'll describe it and you can go find it. Okay. All right. So he described this plant, and I take off into the woods, and I find, and probably what I picked first was Virginia creeper, because it kind of looks like, and it's everywhere, right? Virginia creeper grows everywhere in the Appalachia, and it's really on the edge. It's one of those edge plants, so it's, you know, you find it so easy, but it kind of looks like ginseng, the leaves. And so I immediately grab that, I'm assuming, and I take that to him, and he's like, nope, that's not it. So I go back out, I find another plant that I think might be, you know, ginseng, take it back to him. Nope, that's not it. It's like, all right. So finally, I'm searching hours and hours and hours. And finally I come across, and when I see it, I know it. It's funny because it almost was like, no, this is it. You know, herbalists talk about the plant like waving at them, kind of. I think it kind of waved at me maybe or something. So
you were ready.
I did. So I snipped off a leaf of it or whatever, like a part of it. And I take it to him, and he's like, that's ginseng. And that was so helpful, because I could recognize it. I can spot it anywhere. Like now, like I go back to the Appalachia, I walk into the woods, I can spot it so far away. It just stands out to me now. And I think it's a lot of it was because of that search, you know, and then come to find out later, he actually grew ginseng right behind his shop. So when we were talking, it was 20 feet away from me. He could have just walked me out and shown me the plant.
Yeah.
I like to think that, you know, he did it to try to teach me, and I'm sure he did, but I also think he's just being a little ornery. So
that's a great story. I love that. And yeah, I read your bio on the Mountain Rose Herbs About Us page, and yeah, I saw ginseng was the first plant listed there. So that's really neat. And, you know, I could kind of follow the breadcrumbs to see kind of how your life unfolded. And eventually you made your way from Ohio to Oregon.
Yeah.
And I believe your first job in Oregon was as the graphics person for Mountain Rose Herbs. And I want to say that was 14-ish years ago.
Yeah, 14 years ago. Yeah.
Wild to think. And I'm just kind of curious, what was your, like, say, transition from Ohio to Oregon, and then like how, like, tell us the story about becoming like getting into Mountain Rose Herbs and whatnot.
Oh, so my wife and I, we were living in Columbus, Ohio, and I was a struggling graphic designer and a struggling doodleist, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. To keep
at the time,
yeah.
You know, I was trying to paint, and I was trying to, you know, create art, and I was focusing on graphic design, and she was just out of, well, she had graduated, and she was working at the Ohio State Chimp Center, cognitive research on chimpanzees, and they actually closed the center down, which was a tragic story. And she ended up working with PETA. They'd moved the chimps down to Texas, to this very dilapidated center in Texas. And shame on you, Ohio State. And they ended up, there was quite a few, like 3, I think, died almost immediately, one on the way. And so Clary was very attached to these chimps, and they were family to her. And so she, along with her friend who also worked there, Stephanie, they decided they were going to do something about it. And so they got into they teamed up with PETA. And I know PETA gets a bad rap, but for certain things, but God, I love PETA. PETA's amazing when, you know, they stepped in and helped save these chimps. And so she gets done, and they moved these chimps to a new facility, and it works out quite well for them. And then after that, she decided, well, the only way I'm going to make a real difference, the only way I can actually change what's happening with captive chimps, is by becoming, you know, getting her PhD, becoming a doctorate in that. And so she applies and gets accepted at the University of Oregon, and which was obviously in Eugene, Oregon. And I had no idea where Eugene, Oregon was. I thought it was a suburb of Portland. I was hoping, it's like, please, because I'd been Portland before, and I was like, that's a fun town. Right. So anyways, but it wasn't. We came out here, and And it was really funny. I remember the first day we arrive in Eugene and we walk in and we look, and we're pretty used to being in a big city at that point, right? And so we get there and we look around and it's like, is this downtown? But
Yeah.
God, Oregon's been great to us, though.
Yeah.
It really, really has. So I'm like, what am I going to do out here? And I start looking around, and I find a job at the university, and I apply for that, and it's a graphic design job, and I was like, oh, this would be fun. I could just work at the university. But I also, at the same time, there's a Craigslist ad for this small little hippie herb company, right? I don't really know anything about herbs, other than, my background. We can go into that later a little bit, but I'm not an herbalist, like I said earlier. Yeah. So, but I think, this is a small little company, and I kind of looked at them up online, and I thought, wow, they could use my help. They could, in a good way, not like in what they were doing was terrible, but yeah. I could tell there was areas that I think I could help them. I think I can, and so I apply, and what's funny is I get the job at the university, and I get the job at Mountain Rose, and then I had to like, okay, what do I do here? At the university. At that point I'd worked some in the corporate world, and so I was kind of, I can handle that job, and that's it. But I thought, wow, this Mountain Rose, they're not brand new in any way. I mean, they've been around for years and years, but I feel like I could take them. Like, I knew that there was a chance for me to come in almost at the ground floor. It felt like that. And when I interviewed with them, everybody was just so sweet and down to earth. And I got to hang out with Sean, the owner. Mm-hmm. Know Sean very well. And we were just talking. He's been on the show, right? Like, he comes into my interview, and I'm there, and I'm in this suit, and I'm way overdressed, right? Because this is not a place for suits, Right. I'm there, and I'm way overdressed, and he just like comes in, and it's like we had been longtime friends, and we just immediately start talking, and it's great. And I was like, wow, this is a fun place. I feel like I felt more at home, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's the story. I started out as a graphic designer, and over the years, you get opportunities to leave, but I could never understand why I would. There was never really a point in leaving, because there was always something, just the next step, right? The next project. What can we do next? And plus, it just feels very much like everybody that I work with, like you, for instance. Yeah. I just love everybody here. They mean so much to me, and every day I get to come in and work with the people that I love. So why would I ever do something else? So and it's worked out for me. It has, and I'm very happy with that. Like, I've been able to continue to grow, and and another shout out to Sean and his leadership in that he's allowed me that. He's given me the space. He's given me the autonomy to kind of, and I make mistakes, and he's okay with that, because I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've tried things that didn't work, but he's always been okay with that. And I was talking earlier to someone about Sean's energy. I've never met somebody who has maybe that talent, where he brings energy into a room, and he will give it away. Yeah. He will give you all of his energy. He's just like, here, have it. Have my excitement. Have my verve. Please take it. And I've never really met anyone like that. It's hard. I try to do that myself, because as the executive vice president, you kind of need to do that. And it's really, really hard. And you get done at the end of the day, and you're tired. You're like exhausted because you've given all your energy away, right? You literally just like grab it and give it to other people. I don't know how he does that at all times. It's really impressive. So anyway, long story around.
Yeah, I love it. And since I did work there, I was able to picture a lot of it, and I think the audience was able to. And I just want to say, I think you did end up making the correct choice. It would be interesting to see where you would have ended up in a parallel universe had you chosen, say, the University of Oregon. But I personally benefited from you going to Mountain Rose Herbs, and we've developed a really close friendship and whatnot. And I could only wish that I was there, say, 3 years earlier when you first started, so I could have seen you walk in that suit. Because I've always wished I could have seen that, because you know me, when I first started, I was a toe shoe wearing, long-haired hippie dude, and I would have been like, "Who's this dude?"
There's a lot. There was a even back then. I feel like there were more hippies working at Mountain Rose than what we would consider, like, you know, that hippie look or that hippie feel, vibe or whatever. There was just so many, and it was kind of funny. I remember walking in the door and be like, whoa, this is a whole other world, isn't it?
Eugene itself really is. And so I kind of want to stick on memory lane, but kind of combining it with the modern day events. You all just hosted, I want to say it was either the 14th or 15th free herbalism project. And as you know, and some of the audience knows, I organized, I want to say maybe the first 13 of them. I've missed the past few, and it really bums me out because I love that event. I was just wondering if you could kind of reminisce on, say, Rootstock 2011, and maybe kind of tie it with modern day free herbalism projects, and what the overall, like, what is Mountain Rose Herbs doing with events, and what is the overall vibe? Did you go to the last free herbalism project?
I did. I was there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was there. It was really fun. It kind of felt for the first time since the pandemic, it kind of got back to the old, I don't know, 2018, 2017 free herbalism projects, where there's a lot of people there and a lot of excitement. And, you know, I feel like people are starting to come out of their shell a little bit. And that's nice.
Exciting.
Rootstock was a hell of an endeavor right there. That was, so, you know, there's a lot of herbal conferences. I was just at IHS. It reminded me of Rootstock a lot. The first time I'd ever been there, and that was so much fun. And Susan, getting to hang out with Susan,
totally,
and, you know, Rosemary and Jiling. I was Jiling Lin,
her shadow,
like shadow the whole time.
Actually, I was texting with her earlier, and she told me that.
Yeah.
Essentially,
I do that. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just going to go and, you know, I'm going to shadow and figure it out. But Rootstock was that was born out of the idea that we should have our own you know, herbal conference, and it was so much fun to work on that project. It was a year of a lot of meetings and a lot of ideas, maybe a few tears, I think. But you know, we decided it was you know, like a 3-day festival, and there was going to be music, and obviously herbalism and herbal education, and evening events and dances, and beer gardens, and oh my god, and people from just all over the country and all over the world really came to this event. And you know, 3 days in Salem at the 4-H center there, which is just absolutely gorgeous place. I would love to go back. I always thought that we should have had a free herbalism project again in there at that facility, because it's just so amazing. But that was my first introduction to herbalists. And I've said it a few times on my podcast as well, that you know, the herbal community is it's so incredible, in that I've never met a group of people that is more willing to help you, more willing to sacrifice to like whatever they have, they're going to give you, right? And that was my first time I'd ever been around that. And you know, I'd worked at Mountain Rose for maybe a year and a half at that point, something like that. But I had never been around like herbalists before, other than maybe Steven and the few that have been working at Mountain Rose. So I get there, and I didn't know what to expect, but and I stood out like a sore thumb, right? You know, or at least I thought I did. I don't know, maybe I didn't, but I felt like I did. And they were just so inviting. You know, it was so maybe more hugs than I want to get.
Yeah. Herbalists love to give hugs.
They do. And boy, hugs. Just you know, they make me uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. So, I do. I could only wish we were doing this in person so I could give you a big
So
hug.
you give me a big hug at the end and just watch
Exactly.
me squirm and watch me like, oh God.
Exactly.
But no, it was really, really fun. And I remember walking around and there would just be a group of people sitting, right? And they'd be in a circle and they'd be talking. And at first I would kind of hover. I just wondering what they're doing or whatever, but they would always invite me in, right? They'd be always like, hey, come join us. All right. And I would sit down and then they would just include me in the conversation and whatever they were talking about, and which was most of the time was herbs or, herbal medicine or something, but they would always just include me and they would introduce themselves. And it was just, wow, you people are all really, really nice. Like, what is this? This is not something that I'm used to. And then you get up from that and go to the next group, and it was the same thing, and it was just over and over and over. It was just there's real love at those events. It's true love. It's really fun. So rootstock, yeah, that was kind of my take on it. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot of fun, and I met some amazing, genuine people that I still have friendships with today, which is great. So,
You're here.
and we got to shoot hoops for the first time, right?
That's right. It was in the gymnasium. And I want to say it might have been that same gymnasium that a day after Rootstock, you and I spent like 4 hours peeling up duct tape from the.
Yeah, that was fun.
But I wouldn't take it back. It was a true bonding experience. And absolutely adore those times. And so let's get to the part of the show where maybe Thomas can provide some value to the audience as far as like, say, how would you go about explaining marketing and branding an herbal products brand? So some of our listeners, of course, have their own tincture lines and herbal products and whatnot. So what's your take on it?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
Can you break it down to a simpler?
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So let's say you were spending maybe 10 minutes with an herbalist friend who wanted some general tips and tricks on what they could potentially do as far as branding their products. How would you go about telling that herbalist friend what they could do with their product line? Maybe just in like, say, layman's terms, what are some low-hanging fruit things that someone could potentially do as far as improving like the branding on their products and whatnot?
First and foremost, quality. Like, have a quality product. That's going to get you so far. Yeah. The people can look past a lot if your product is a high quality product. And I know that's everybody's probably going to say, well, I have the high quality product. What's the next sentence after that? What's the next step after that? But I think when it comes to branding, you're kind of up against something. You need to be unique, right? Because you got to stand out. But at the same time, you got to be able to stand out while keeping things simple and appropriate, right? And by appropriate, I mean it works for what you're trying to do. So with branding, at least what I try to do is I have a message, and I say, what's the easiest way for me to get this message to as many people as possible, right? And that normally is not complicated in that you don't want to overcomplicate it, if that makes sense. A lot of times we can try to make things look really beautiful, and we can get stuck in that. That it has to look beautiful, the first thing, it needs to communicate your message. That's the absolute most important thing. You could just put your name on a white label and that's going to work a hell of a lot better than if you do this script and it's all kind of hidden in a bunch of botanicals and it doesn't, and people pick it up and they're like, oh, that's a beautiful picture of a botanical, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the brand. I'm not seeing the logo, that kind of a thing. So I always say, just try to keep it simple. Stay away from clever. God, I hate clever. I really do. I've always been against it. It's people are trying to always be clever. They have to have a clever approach to everything. And I'm like, no, that's I get it. It works sometimes. And we still have the clever ads in our head. Sure. And I think that's very hard to do. And you're going to spend a lot of time and energy trying to be clever when you could spend that time and that energy and trying to be appropriate and trying to have a beautiful very simple design or a very simple brand. And I take everything to design because that's just where my world is.
Sure.
So there's so much more to branding, obviously, than design, but that's just kind of where I always take everything because it's the foundation, really,
Yeah, and I just want to give you props. I mean, you've been there for 14 years, and like virtually any sort of design element that you see through Mountain Rose Herbs, and they get a lot of compliments on their designs.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas has, put your fingerprint on it, and essentially you probably designed almost 90% of it from scratch, I would say. So if you're looking at the tea boxes or the tinctures, the bags of herbs, pretty much anything Thomas has designed. And, as you were describing the simplicity, I was noticing sometimes Mountain Rose Herbs will have, like, say, some intricacies or some super cool flair to it. Yeah. But at the same token, I could just look at it and immediately know what it is. So there's still that clarity. You're able to combine that fanciness with, and I want to say over the course of years, you've actually made it a lot more simple. Yeah. Would you say?
Yeah, I've taken it back. Well, Mountain Rose had a certain, they had a certain style.
Yeah.
When I first started, and I knew that there was no way that I was going to be able to just, completely change it when I walked in. And I didn't want to change everything. There was beautiful. A lot of the stuff that was very beautiful, but there were certain things that I was like, oh, we could do this a little bit better and a little bit better. And it all kind of evolves, obviously through time, but you, again, if you build on that simple form, right? And then you start building on top of that, but always recognizing that you need to keep it simple. That message needs to be clear.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I so you can bring in more complexity to your design, to your brand, whatever that is, your website, any of that stuff. You can bring in more complexity, and it's great. It's wonderful, and you should. But it's like anything else. You got the fundamentals, right? We always
fundamentals, boys.
The fundamentals, boys, in basketball, right? Because you got to build. You got to first have those fundamentals. Well, it's the same thing in design. It's the same when you're designing something. Have that fundamental approach to it, and that you have that look, and then you can start building on top of it. The other thing I will say is that all of that was built off mistakes. So I think it's really important for people to understand that you're going to make so many mistakes. You're going to make so many mistakes. You're going to look back on stuff and just be like, what in the hell was I thinking? That didn't work at all. But that's okay.
I love that.
And you're supposed to, because always be moving forward, always move forward. And that's what's important. And take your mistakes, learn from them. Figure out why you did what you did, and try not to do it again, I guess, or maybe just try to do it a different way. Sometimes mistakes there's something hidden in a mistake, that you can kind of glean and be like, oh, you know what, that's actually a good nugget. I want to pull that out and so I think that's, and then I just study the masters, go online, look up. It is so easy now, so much easier than when I first started. You had to go to the library and kind of check things out, and it's kind of the first of the internet was obviously around when I first started, but not like it is now. You didn't have Pinterest. Jeez, Pinterest is type in whatever you're doing.
Cheat code.
Oh, I'm designing a tea. I do this all the time myself. I literally I'm going to design a new tea box design in Pinterest. And then I start looking at what people have done, and kind of get an idea of like, oh, that worked, that element worked really well, or that type placement worked really well. Their typography is perfect there. How do they do that? And then apply it. So, and you borrowing, right? Or maybe you're stealing a little bit. I don't know. But
Austin Kleon has a book called "Steal Like an Artist," and that's essentially
right. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. Right.
I like that. Those are a lot of really great tips. I especially like the one about do something and then learn and make mistakes, but then just consistently iterate and improve over the course of times. Like that's the whole story of Herb Rally and everything. So great tips.
Yeah, and also always be doing something. So always, let's say you're a company out there and you have a tincture or whatever it is, and you design your packaging. Well, as soon as you're done designing that package, you should be designing your next packaging. You should be like trying to figure out what's the next move, what's the next step. And sometimes that's completely, scrapping your old style and coming up with a whole new style that works. I have no problem with that. I know a lot of companies, and maybe there's going to be so many people that roll their eyes at this. I have no problem with the whole rebrand. I have no problem with like the whole new look, a whole new feel. I feel like we're at a time when that works because things are changing so often. There's constantly something new that's popping up. And yes, there's definitely, you have to be consistent, and there's consistency in brand and all of that. And, you want people to know who you are. And like you said, you can look at a package and say, oh, I know that's Mountain Rose.
Sure.
But at the same time, take Mountain Rose 10 years ago and take the package now, and they're completely different. The website's completely different. The journal, the catalog, completely different. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to say, that's not working anymore. Well, I'm going to try something completely new. And as long as you're excited about it, as long as you're feeling that, great, wonderful. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a sacrifice to the god of art, right? You just put it on your shelf. You've seen my shelf. I've got so many that is just sitting there,
Totally.
These renditions of packaging or of whatever it is I'm working on that just didn't work for whatever, and some of them are sad because you're like, really, that should have worked. That was beautiful. But just always be moving, always be moving, trying something new, and exploring what's happening out there, because there's so many brilliant designers and artists and branders or whatever you want to call them. It's so many out there that are just doing some amazing work, and figure out what the hell they're doing and how the hell they're doing it, right?
You had a really great example as far as the catalog versus the journal. And obviously the catalog is historic and so important to Mountain Rose Herbs history. I mean, it's kind of iconic for the brand. And then I don't want to miscredit this, but someone thought of the journal idea. Was that you, Thomas? Yeah. And you were able to pivot from the catalog to this more journal style of catalog, and you include stories and whatnot, and you still are honoring the roots of the catalog. So sure, it's a new direction, sure, it's a new look, but you're still honoring Mountain Rose Herbs history in that regard.
Yeah, no, that's it. And the storytelling that's so important in herbalism, right? Because that's really what herbalists kind of build their whole work on is that tradition. Being able to tell a story, being able to talk about a recipe and how it was developed and what happened, and so that's kind of what the whole journal idea behind it is that we need to bring these stories to the people and get them excited, because it just feeds into that flame that people have. And sometimes it's a small flame, and then you read this story and you're like, God, I want to experience that. I want to go out and find that herb that changed my life, right? Go find that plant that spoke back to me. And so that's kind of the whole idea of it. Yes. Instead of just putting a catalog out that sells things, which is, it's important, you have to sell things in this business, right? Yeah. But it's putting the education first, putting the storytelling first. And Sean says that. Sean he's always preached that to me and to everyone, is that we just need to tell the story. The product will sell itself, and we need to be that avenue for people to be able to come to and educate themselves, learn more about herbalism, more about plant medicine, that kind of thing. And then, the plants and, the product just sells itself after that. So
that goes back to your first tip, which was to just have a quality product first and foremost. And, then there's the beauty of word of mouth, etc. So, but yeah.
Can I give a shout out to Stephen Yeager?
Yes, indeed.
And what he's been able to do for this company.
Absolutely.
Mountain Rose would not exist if it wasn't for Stephen Yeager. I truly, truly believe that. What he's been able to do in that quality department. I have never seen someone so dedicated to one area. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever met somebody more dedicated to a single area like Stephen, in that, in bringing quality products to the people.
I could attest to that as well. Yeah, absolutely. What he's done there in the lab is amazing. So the listeners are very familiar with Stephen Yeager. He's was my one of my first OG herbal mentors at the Columbine School of Botanical Studies. But then he's also last I checked, the QC director. I think he has maybe a different title at this moment in time. But I've been running the lab at Mountain Rose Herbs for over a decade, also probably around 12-ish years.
I think since Moses was in short pants, right?
There you go. A long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
But no, it's really, and that's the thing. Like you think that after a certain amount of time, you sort of get burnt out. But he's never burnt out. You sit down in his office. I walk in, I love walking into his office, and he immediately just starts talking about something that he's read.
Yeah.
That excites him, something that he has seen that excites him. And, I was like, wow, it's again, we talk about energy, right? That is a talent right there, to have that kind of energy and that kind of passion for plants. It's so impressive.
Well, we brought this up in his interview when I interviewed him in Eugene, Oregon, Mount Pisgah. He's taken botany to another level. Now his favorite things to look at are the tiny flowers that you can't even see with the naked eye. So he likes to botanize. Like, he gets really in depth with everything he does. And I think he's done the same thing with the quality department in Mountain Rose Herbs. So thanks for the shout out. I'll definitely leave a link to that interview as well. Also, since we were talking about it, the journal, I want to link to the journal. I haven't really plugged that in a long time. So y'all have an amazing journal. I was honored to be a part of, I want to say, the first one or two of them.
You were a big part of it.
Thank you. What a fun project to be a part of, and it's just an honor to get to participate in that. But let's transition a little bit. We have a guest question portion of the show. There's going to be a couple text questions and a couple video questions. So Jiling, we brought up Jiling earlier. Jiling asks, Jiling Lin, by the way, you can learn more about her at jilinglin.com. She asks, what have been some of the biggest changes in shifting from design T-Boss to MRHVP? And I'll say, I might have wrote changes, and she might have been meant challenges or changes. Shifting from design T-Boss to MRHVP. And I'll just say, you're still doing the design boss. So
I'm still kind of doing the design boss. So that's a little bit, and there's I think that and I know I said this earlier, and I was talking about Sean. It's so serendipitous. I was just having this conversation with Elisa. You know Elisa quite well. HR director.
That's right.
I was just having this conversation with her earlier that energy, like I need to be able to match that energy that he brought, because it's really, really important. You realize really quickly that a lot of people are watching you, and you can't show emotion. Like, you gotta be positive. That's the only emotion you should be able to show. Like, you gotta be positive. You gotta be able to get people excited, get people to want to be a part of, like, whatever is happening. And I guess I kind of took it for granted before this, because again, Sean is just so phenomenal at it. Like, it comes so easy for him. He can walk into a room and just, he's so excited, no matter what it is. You just pick something up off your desk and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. What is this? You're like, wow, okay, this is and it's a constant reminder. Like, so before, I was, in the design, especially a few years back, I mean, I was kind of in my own bubble, right? I used to say that people could just slide the work under my door, and then I would, do it, and then I'd slide it back out to them, and they'd be like, oh, okay, this is, and because I do really, really enjoy working by myself. So now that is not the case at all. I can't work by myself. I have to work with a lot of people. And so it's really, really fun. And I love working with people, but you have to be at this level at all times, And so I think that's, you can't have a bad day. You can't just come in and be like, I'm not feeling it today. No. That's just not going to work. So I think that's been the biggest challenge for me, and change going from, I could just lock my door and do the work, to now I can't do that. So
Great
but I
answer.
appreciate that question.
Yeah.
From my favorite, one of my favorite. I'm gonna say favorite herbalist.
There you go.
I love her to death.
We love Jiling. Jiling's
Yeah.
awesome. Again, shout out Jiling, jilinglin.com. Yeah, that was a great question. She actually submitted, I want to say 4, but that was one of my favorites. So I chose that. And I just learned a new Zoom technique. So stay tuned here. 1 second. I'm going to share a video. Can you see a video?
Oh, yes, I do.
Awesome. Well, so for the listener, this next question comes from Susan Leopold. She's the executive director of the United Plant Savers. You can learn more about their amazing work at unitedplantsavers.org, I believe, but I'll include a link to that in the show notes. So let's hear the question that Susan has for Thomas.
Hi, Thomas. I know you were just at the International Herb Symposium, and I heard that you were in the room when the judging was taking place for the herbal products contest. And I would like to know, what was something about the herbal products contest that impressed you the most? All right. Can't wait to hear. Bye.
Well, okay, so Stephen was the one who was judging. I just was kind of off in the distance. So but I think that what I was most impressed with was again, being a designer, I'm really looking at the design, and I'm seeing a lot of creativity. I'm seeing a lot of new creativity, almost a whole new look to herbalism that I hadn't really seen before, which is so interesting to me. Like there's, I don't know exactly where it's coming from. I don't know, again, if it's evolving from other looks or other, but it's just so clean and beautiful. And I was really, really impressed with that, because you look at it and you're like, wow, these people have some talent, and that's really fun to see. And you could tell a lot of it was coming from younger people. There was like that kind of younger vibe. As an old guy, you can sort of spot it. You can spot that young energy, that young look. And I think was the most impressive, was just how it was funny, because I was thinking about it. I was like, back at, when I first started, I think Mountain Rose was kind of one of the few companies that were starting to do it right, as far as the look and feel goes. And it was kind of easy. It was kind of easy to beat the competition with design, because, there wasn't a lot of other designers that were really in this. And now it's competitive. There's a lot of young, really, really talented people that are in the herbal world. And that's fun. That's really fun. I'm glad to see it. I love that. So nice. Yeah.
I would love to have seen a lot of those products and whatnot. So very cool. Well, let's, and I didn't give a shout out we shouted out Jiling Lin, but it occurred to me, Jiling Lin is also the other host, or one of the other hosts on Herbal Radio. So you're the host of Interviews on Herbal Radio, and Jiling Lin is Tea Talks with Jiling Lin. So dear listener, if you have a moment, pause this episode and go subscribe to Herbal Radio. There probably is some overlap, probably quite a bit of overlap, but if you're not subscribed to Herbal Radio, they come out with new episodes each and every week. That's interviews, that's conferences. So check them out. Next question is from Herb Rally's own Amanda Hutchison.
Oh, Amanda May.
So for the listener, Amanda was actually one of Thomas's first hires early on. That was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And Amanda served as a creative. She did a lot of, like, say, photography, probably some graphics and whatnot. But now I'm married to Amanda, and she's a part of Herb Rally. So
what else she did? She kept me sane.
Like, there you go.
She really did. Nobody can light up a room like Amanda. It's very true.
Agreed.
And it was so fun. The most, so I was in my office, and then she was right outside.
Yeah.
And I would have conversations in my office, and I would say something funny, and I would hear this laugh come out from Amanda that was No, like sometimes you would get like this deep kind of chuckle, and I knew like that was a good.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I missed that. I miss hearing that laugh. That was so good. But no, nobody was. She's the only person on earth who's weirder than I am. So she will claim that I'm weirder than her.
Yeah.
But no, it's not true. She's weirder than I am. So
Yeah, she's an odd person.
And
yeah.
talented.
Yes.
Just phenomenally talented.
Oh yeah. Before
just,
Amanda Herb Rally's look was just like, I used paint. I don't know. It was pretty shitty, but Amanda's really elevated the look and feel here at Herb Rally. So it's actually kind of related to the questions related to like, the work environment that you provided back in the day. So her question is, well, she quotes this first: working with Thomas didn't really feel like work at all. He always encouraged having fun as a top priority, because if you're having fun, you are creating your best work.
Yeah.
What tips and tricks do you have for managing a healthy work environment?
Well, I think that I've been lucky in that I've worked with some amazing people, and I haven't really had a lot of complications as far as people that I work with. There hasn't been really like that, many complicated people.
Yeah, I'm gone now, so that helps.
So you're not there, so that helps a lot. And I never had to manage Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
This is one of our mutual buddies, one of our mutual basketball buddies. Anyways, so
yes.
I hope he hears that.
Yes.
He won't. He's never going to listen to this.
You never know.
So, patience is the one thing that I had to learn. You never know what someone's going through. You never know what kind of history they've had. You don't know what their triggers are. You don't know whether they just been verbally or physically abused right before they walk into a place, or they're dealing with some sort of trauma, they're dealing with sickness. So the first and foremost is patience. Always be patient. Always, give people the benefit of the doubt. 99% of everybody that you're around are good people. They have good intentions. They're trying to do their best, right? And we immediately, it's like someone makes a mistake and we immediately think the worst. We think the worst of them. We think that, they're doing it on purpose, or they're trying to hustle, or whatever it is, and instead just stepping back and being like, why did that happen? What's going on with them? What questions do I need to ask to help them? Like, is there something that I can do? As a leader, I've always said that they don't work for you, you work for them, right? And part of that is providing the tools that are necessary for them to succeed, and whatever that is. And everybody's an individual. Everybody has different tools that they need. So you got to be patient, and you have to, and like she said, you have to have fun. You got to bring fun to the work. Where I'd always say we're not like in the Obama administration. We're not trying to
right.
keep two countries from invading each other or anything. We're just trying to sell herbs here, and we can have fun at that. And for the most part, all jobs, I know there's some very serious jobs out there, and I respect that. I don't, I could never probably do those jobs, because I have to have fun. I have to constantly be laughing. I have to constantly be, not entertained, but maybe entertaining. I like being entertaining. And I like having that in the workplace. So patience and fun, and letting people be creative, letting people some people have a hard time. I myself, I've never, and maybe this isn't coming across this way, but I've never really liked to talk that much. And it's sometimes I get my words get garbled, and I have a hard time explaining myself. And so you can have a really great idea, right? And you can't quite express it. You can't sell it because you're not a salesperson. You don't have that, talent. So don't dismiss ideas just because you don't understand the idea, right? Like that's a ridiculous reason to say no to an idea. Circle back on it, figure out what they're asking. They come to you with an idea, they're excited about it for a reason. And you got to trust that the person that's in there into your department is in there for a reason. And they're in there because they're smart and they're talented and they're capable. So when they come to you with an idea, listen really closely. And if they're not explaining it well, have them back up and explain it again, because there's something in there, I guarantee, in every idea that you can use, that you can work with, that you can run with and make something amazing out of. So
that's all really great advice. And I want to go back to, you were saying the word patience, which I highly agree. I mean, patience is something that we should all be working on regardless. But a lot of what you were describing to me sounded like empathy, which I would describe empathy as a incredibly valuable tool if you're in any sort of leadership position. So
absolutely.
Could not agree more. Thank you so much for all those suggestions. Go ahead.
And it helps you, you come from, we've always talked about being misfits, and you and I are misfits for sure.
Amen.
We both had our definite challenges growing up.
Absolutely.
From real trauma.
That's right.
And so that helps. And that's sort of a, you think about, I talk to my therapist about this sometimes, about using that trauma to your advantage. And that's definitely one of those areas that you can use your trauma to your advantage, is that you can have empathy, because you have a better understanding of what problems really are, and you can kind of spot it, you see it on people's faces, like, and so and that's that's something anybody can learn. But again, it just stop your initial reaction, really think about, like, are they actually doing something wrong, or is this coming from some place that you don't know anything about and that you just need to learn more about to understand it? So again,
thank you.
Describing it, but
great answers. Thomas is 6:02. I'm down to keep going. Do you still have time?
Yeah. All right, sweet. I carved out 18 hours.
Okay, good. The Herbalist 18-hour.
The 18-hour-thon. How many listeners will we have by hour 9? That's what I want to know. You may not have any now.
No, we actually don't. I did open it up to the Herbal Radio Schoolhouse members, which, so dear listener, if you didn't know, I might edit this part out. I don't know. You are able to join us live if you're an Herbal Radio Schoolhouse member. And we have had a few people show up for some of these, but it's not too often yet. But I think we're still.
I've never done that with my podcast, by the way. It's always been.
It's fun, and if I open it up to like the whole public, then people would show up for sure. But we have like 210 members, and it just depends on if it works for their schedule. So one more question, Thomas. This is another video question. Let's do this again. A little share screen. This is going to be a super duper fun one.
Okay.
So you were alluding to Ryan Szakalski earlier. Ryan Szakalski submitted a video question.
Oh God, dude. Oh geez.
So he will be listening to this
after all. So. I love that I brought him up too.
Yeah,
I know. It's before
perfect.
Knowing that he was going to be
a couple times. Yes. Okay. So here he is. Let's see what Ryan has to say.
Thomas, now that you're vice president, can you give me a job at Mountain Rose Herbs? Like a good one?
Oh God. I am so thankful for meeting you for so many reasons, and Ryan being one of those reasons. Like being able to hang out with him, how important it is to have those people in your life that I was just telling Clary, my wife, the other day about, like, when I was just talking to, like, I don't think I've ever had a actual serious conversation with Ryan in my entire time knowing him. I don't know if I've ever had a serious conversation, but it does. As soon as I'm around him, no matter what's going on, it all melts away.
Yeah. And
we just have fun. And it is vital in everyone's life if you can just find that person and they can just be a goofball with you. They can just be goofy, have fun, and just know that know that's always there. It's always like I can give him a call and be like, dude, let's go and let's go play some basketball, or let's just go hang out and kind of get that relief. So to answer his question, absolutely, for sure.
Executive vice president assistant.
Yeah. The assistant to the executive vice president. I like that.
Yeah.
That would be good. Yeah. So that took me off guard.
I love it. And just to reiterate what you said, yeah, like everyone needs, laughter and I used to, so you mentioned the not being serious part, and I gotta say I've known Ryan Szakalski since 6th grade. And over the course of years there's been some serious talks, but you're right, like you can always count on Ryan for a good laugh. I know anytime that I go hang out with Ryan, it's gonna be like a hoot, because he's gonna say some ridiculous stuff, and he's just super duper funny. So I'm glad.
And there's the other side to Ryan too, is that I think that if I had to call on him for something, something serious, he'd be right there too. That's the thing about he's just a genuine person. God,
absolutely.
I love those people. So
yeah. Well, now we're probably embarrassing Ryan at this point, but hey, this is on wax now till the end of time. So thank you, Ryan, for submitting your question. Looks like you got a job coming soon at Mountain Rose Herbs. So
we'll share an office.
Yeah, that would be a hoot.
Yeah. I don't think Cameron would like it though. I don't think our CEO, she would be down for that. I don't know. Imagine Ryan and I together. That would be...
You might not get any work done.
Going into the board meetings together, that'd be.
Well, let's kind of wrap things up. I've got a few more questions. I appreciate your time and expertise. And there's a couple like get to know Thomas questions, but also I was hoping, actually, Thomas, I actually wrote down a bunch of really great questions. We didn't even get to, we probably got to about half of them, but that's all good. Maybe we'll do a round 2 in the future someday. Yeah. I would love to hear the story about you singing on stage in India. And most importantly, I still don't know if there's any sort of footage of this happening. So if you could send me a link to any sort of footage, if that's even available.
So I think that, Jennifer may have footage for that. Yeah. I should ask her. Her and I I texted just the other day.
So what happened in India with you on stage?
So I'm visiting India, which was probably one of the greatest places I've ever been in my life. The people there are so amazing, and just traveling around with them and getting to experience that culture, that was once in a lifetime for me. But we got to stay at this incredible temple about halfway through the trip, and this temple was putting on a festival at the time, and this temple is thousands of years old, and it's just really beautiful place and very spiritual, very holy. They have this festival, and I think they expected maybe 5,000 people to show up, and 30,000 people show up for this festival, right? And it's this massive, and they have the stage, and so they bring on and their guests, and they are I think it's the equivalent to our what's that TV show that we have, like the American
American Idol?
Idol, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So it's like the equivalent to the American Idol for India, right? Yeah. And so they bring on these the winners of the Indian American Idol, whatever you want to call that. I'm not sure the name of it. And they're up there singing, and they have this host, and she's a celebrity in India. She's one of the news. I think she's a newscaster and a big celebrity in India. And she's kind of emceeing it, and so they're up there and they're singing, and they're doing lots of traditional songs and lots of traditional dances, and it's just, we're having a great time, and we're kind of an honored guests because the people that were taking us around were they actually owned the temple itself, and so we were kind of honored guests at this festival. So we're up front, and so it's halfway through the show, and the MC, she turns to us, and we're obviously Americans that are at this, and so I don't think she knew who we were or anything, but she said, and she points at me and she's like, come up on stage. Yeah. And I'm like, what? And she does it again. Like, come up on stage. So, all right. So I get up on stage and she, asked me, where I'm from, which was, looking back, it was kind of embarrassing. So she asked me where I'm from and I say, Oregon. I'm from Oregon.
Yeah. Eugene.
She didn't know where Oregon was. Of course,
Right,
that's the hubris of us Americans.
Yeah,
Well, how do you not know where Oregon? I should have just said Eugene. I probably should. Eugene, right? No. So then she'd say, where at? Oregon, where? And I was like, oh, in the United States. And so then she says, well, we would love for you to sing and have us teach you a traditional Indian song. Oh, okay. So, and so one of the winners, he comes over and it was this pass the mic back and forth, right? And he sings so beautifully this, Indian song, and I'm supposed to then take what he sings and try to replicate in some way, or like what it is, and I just butcher it, right? He sings it, I butcher it, and they're just like, no, he sings it, I butcher it. Okay, finally on the third try, like I think it was like the third try, I finally kind of get how it goes, and so I sing it, and I get this big, huge
30,000 people.
30,000 people. And that's when it kind of hit me that I'm standing in front of 30,000 people. And I'm looking out like, what kind of weird, what led to this?
Yeah.
Right. What life choices have I made where I am standing on a stage in India, in front of 30,000 people singing a traditional Indian song?
Kannada song. So I have a request, Thomas. I can see that you're a great singer. You sing really well. Wow, Mansa Thomas looks like he's a very good singer. So Thomas will sing for us 2 minutes Kannada song. You, Thomas. Yeah, one line. So Thomas also needs all that mobile lights. Come on, Thomas goes, everybody. Yeah, come on, let's hear it for Thomas.
I may have missed this part, but you were wearing traditional garb at that moment too, weren't you? Or no?
Well, I think that we had on. I don't think I was wearing traditional garb. I think that we had some traditional. And I'm not going to come up with the name of these, but basically they were just flower.
Okay.
Like around our necks. Whatever those are called. So we had those, and we had some other things that were given to us, but I wasn't wearing the traditional that I can remember. I don't think so. No, I don't think I think I was wearing, which is why probably we stood out, because, there we are as Americans and in traditional American garbs, such thing.
And this was you and a couple other of your coworkers at Mountain Rose Herbs, essentially on a farm trip.
Right. So I was doing video and photography of, plants that we sell from India, and meeting the farmers, which was just the most amazing experience of my life, and capped with that. Right.
Yeah. Right. That is a life experience. Man, I would have been super nervous to do that, but you did it.
Well, I wasn't. It happened so fast that I wasn't nervous.
Yeah, you had no choice
until the applause.
Right.
Honestly, until I heard that applause.
Yeah.
And it's really quite amazing. I can't imagine what performers that are performing.
That's a high.
Yeah, it has to be. Like, how do you get that? That's all of these people focused in on you, and I don't know. It was pretty incredible. So
Well, you got a taste of it.
Yeah.
What a wild experience.
That was my 15 seconds of fame, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, let's do we've been doing some of these. I don't know what question it is, but this is a Let's Get Deep Friends Edition card. And it's just going to be a random question. Get to know Thomas a little bit better.
All right.
Who was your favorite teacher growing up and why? And I can always choose another one too.
Favorite teacher. I didn't like the school system I was in when I was growing up. So
Fair. That's fair.
I did have a teacher. Her name was Mrs. Gray when I was in the 5th grade. And I was a weird kid. I had a lot of energy. I don't know. I was probably, too much energy for school. I couldn't sit still. And so I was always bouncing around, and I couldn't pay attention to what was going on. You're teaching mathematics or whatever. And God, I wish I could have paid attention to it, but I couldn't. And she was one of the only teachers that I feel like understood that. So many other times, all the teachers would just get mad at me and say, sit down and shut up and learn this, And she didn't. She was very understanding to what was going on, and she helped me a lot with that, and even in the 5th grade, and then knowing that I wasn't that different, that it was okay to be different. Maybe that's what it is. Like, it was okay to be different. It was okay to be, excited and have energy. So I always felt like it was before that. You'd kind of feel like that was wrong. Right. To have that much energy, to have that much excitement, because you're always told to stop it. Stop doing that. Stop being loud. Stop being excited. So yes, I think that's the one that stands out for sure.
Got it. Mrs. Gray.
Miss Gray. She was
Miss Gray. Okay, very good. Well, what's a random hobby of yours outside of the realm of, say, graphics and art and design? I know you have a lot of them, so yeah, feel free to talk about any of them.
Yeah, hobbies are something that I'm constantly picking something up and putting something down. It's always, I feel like I drive my wife crazy, because I'm one of those people that when I start a hobby, I really go deep into it, and I have to have, all of the things, all of the stuff for it. Right. And then,
right.
Which is fine. And it, I get it that that's what eBay's for. Right.
Right.
You're done with that hobby. You're like, I can just put it on eBay and get some money back out of it.
Exactly.
I play my guitar. Like, that's something that I do every morning. I've built that into my routine as far as my wake up. I wake up, I have my coffee, and I play my guitar for about an hour, and I've learned that's really helps me get into a place in for that day that I can come in and tackle, like, whatever problems, focus on the problems, that kind of a thing. So guitar is very important. Playing some music. I'm terrible at it. I don't understand how these people, I don't understand these guitarists out there and how they do it. How the fuck do you do it? Like, that is seriously, they are, there's some people out there that are just so good, and I can't, but it's, it's a talent, and it's like anything else. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and my weakness is guitar, but it's fine because it brings me, joy. So.
Well, you've been building them too, to one degree or another, yeah? Guitars?
Yeah, a little bit. I tried that for a while, and that was fun. It's really complicated, and again, I think it takes a lifetime to master. Yeah. That's one of the problems with me, is I want to be a master at at whatever I'm doing. So guitar is a little different. That's like, as far as just playing it, I realize that I'm never. It's like that day in your life when you realize you're never going to be a Major League Baseball player.
Right.
Sad day. just a really sad day.
But now you just get to do it for fun. And
Yeah.
I think that's cool that you have something like that. For the listener in the background, Thomas has a painting of this a horse that you did. And I would say you have mastered certain talents, and painting is certainly one of them. Design is definitely one of them. And you can't be a master of everything. So I'm just happy that you have a hobby of yours where you're able to just kind of own. Maybe I won't, end up becoming like this crazy guitar player, but it's cool that you're playing every single day. I didn't know that you were doing that. And what a great way to start your day.
And you know what? It's great. Like you do get better.
Yeah,
that's what's
for
cool.
sure. Yeah.
Like
one song a day.
Every day you just like,
I
I thought that this morning. I was playing around and I was reading the news. I was reading the latest Trump news. That's always fun. You got to start your day with the latest Trump news. What has that fool been up to? Right. And I was just noodling on the guitar and I played something and I wasn't even thinking about it. And then I kind of stopped. It's like, where did that come from? And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, you just get a little bit better. You got just a tiniest bit better, so I don't know, maybe in 250 years, I'll be, decent. So,
yeah, you got this, Tom. Well, last question. Curious if you could speak to the Seeds Project and any other
absolutely
fun Mountain Rose Herbs projects you want to shout out, but specifically the Seeds Project.
Yeah, I think the Seeds Project is so important. So it's a seed stewardship project. Mountain Rose, we've been incredibly lucky in the herbal world. And we've been able to establish ourselves and, make a living at this. And that's not easy. And, but we're so grateful to not only our customers, right? Because our customers are everything to us. We love them so much. But we're also grateful for the plants because the plants give us this livelihood. If it wasn't for the plants, we don't exist, right? And that's for everyone. That's for the world. If there wasn't for the plants, we don't exist. But if it wasn't for the plants, I don't have a job.
Right.
We don't, that sort of thing. You don't have a job, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
true.
And so
so
recognizing that there are these plants out there. And this comes a lot from Susan and United Plant Savers and what I've been able to learn just from talking with her. And but these plants are at risk, and there's some plants that might go away in our lifetime that may not actually exist anymore on this planet. And because we've been so lucky, because we've been so I'll say blessed. That's fine. Because we've been so blessed and we have such an amazing group of people that back us and will buy the products from us and who support us in so many ways. We want to give back. So we thought, well, how can we do that? What's a better way than us giving free seeds of at-risk plants away to all of our customers, whoever wants to help us and whoever wants to reach out to us and say, yes, we want some free seeds, the herbal schools, all of that stuff, and do a massive replanting of at-risk plants and try to get these plants off the at-risk plant, off the at-risk list, I should say. Because how incredible would that be at someday we get to look and they're no longer at risk, right? They're removed from that list. And they're thriving, and they're the plants don't need us. We need them. That's we got to constantly think about that. So we got to constantly think, what can we do to give it back? And this is one way. And so and another, this comes from Rosemary. I was interviewing Rosemary on the podcast, and that was just incredible. I never thought I would get to have a conversation with Rosemary Gladstar, right? I mean, she is, talk about rock stars. There it is, right? She is it. And she said that she was walking in the woods one day when she was much younger, first into herbalism and the plants. And I might be destroying this story, and I apologize, Rosemary, if I am, but she said I heard the plants speak to me, and for the first time, and they said, "Please plant us back." And that stuck. And it was just, those words continue to just stay in my head. And I was just like, that's incredible. Words are so powerful. And those words were incredibly powerful. And so thanks to her and her inspiration, and then thanks to Susan and United Plant Savers, and allowing us to team up with them to get this started. But hopefully in the next week or so, we're going to have this launched, and you can start getting your free seeds from mountainroseherbs.com. And God, let's get these plants off the list, right?
I love that. Well, this episode could be live in even just a few days, but maybe I'll even hold off a little bit so I can actually link is there going to be information on the website about this project?
There will be information on the website. We are awesome. Right now we're waiting on the plants or the seeds packets to be delivered, and but they are shipping. So we have a lot. We want to run out. Yeah. Please make us run out of these plants or these seeds, and then there will be more to come. Like this isn't going to go away. And what we're hoping is that also this will evolve into obviously us offering more and more plants or seeds. Keep saying plants, but seeds for the plants, that, and then eventually we would like for it to maybe some of our customers become seed stewards, and they are able to harvest the seeds from these plants, and then they can then give it back. And what we're trying to do with United Plant Savers is kind of start our own seed bank. And so it's this full circle of giving of. So that's what we're hoping for. What it's going to take is your listeners, is people like that who can help us, because we need a lot of help. We need help planting these seeds.
What an amazing initiative. And wow, I mean, I'm just surprised Mountain Rose Herbs even makes money. Y'all give everything away for free all the time, like the free education, the free seeds.
Yeah.
I love that idea, Thomas.
It's like what Sean said. You kind of just tell the story, and
right.
And the product sells itself after that. You don't have to push this stuff. People love it, and people want, I think it's like anything else. Like once you get into it, boy, you really get into it, right? It just becomes part of your life, and you figure out how life-changing the medicinal plants can be, right? And then they're just always going to be there for you. So
Thomas, I think we come full circle. I think you might be an herbalist. This idea is revolutionary, and I really think it's going to greatly benefit the planet and the plants, and wonderful. I'm stoked to link to that as well. And did you have any parting thoughts or anything like that as we wrap up the show here?
Well, parting thoughts, and thank you for all you're doing. And this whole time I'm talking to you, and I'm thinking back to all those times that you and I just hung out, and we're being goofballs, right? And but we've had definitely deeper conversations as well.
That's right.
Like you and I,
we're misfits.
We've kind of misfits, and you're such an important part of my life. Like you're such an important friend. And I love that even though you moved away, like that, it still feels like you're just right around the corner, and I miss you, and I miss Amanda a lot. You two are very important to me. So thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. And we'll certainly be back, and we'll certainly be playing some basketball when I'm back in Eugene. And
absolutely.
Really appreciate you going overtime for the show.
As
I said, there's so many great questions I would love to get your answers to. So a round 2 at some point.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the time. And thank you, dear listener, for tuning in. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour.
Oh, and if you want, I'm sorry.
Go for it. Please.
One more thing.
Plug away.
I'm going to say that I got your podcast coming up as well.
Awesome.
At least, I'm not sure.
I heard September.
September. Okay.
Yeah.
So I interviewed you, so you kind of want to, you want to check that out. You're listening.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what I said. I already forgot. That was a lot
Good
of fun
stuff.
going
It's
going
great
into your
stuff.
studio.
Yeah.
It's fun to be on the other side and get interviewed too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not usually much of a talker either. I usually, talk to the other folks and hear their stories. So it's it was great to have a chance to tell mine. So thank you for allowing me that space.
Yeah, and if you want to check out my artwork, I do have a website, Thomas J as in Jason, which is my middle name, DickDick.com. So you can go there and check out my artwork if you like.
Dude, I did not know you had a website. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
kind of on the down low.
Okay. Well, now it's not.
There's some fun stuff on there.
Thomas J. Dick, and I don't know if I knew your middle name was Jason somehow.
Yeah. So, my mom wanted to name me Jason. She
Okay.
I don't know, she got overruled, and so it kind of
met in the middle.
Yeah,
Name.
exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, Thomas. Well, thank you so much one more time, and thanks you, dear listener, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. We'll talk soon. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving text, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.